Should you become an owner in a medical practice, or should you partner in one, or maybe do sweat equity or do a buy-in? A lot of considerations to be made here, and a lot of physicians, I would say, unfortunately, don't do this as much as they used to. And there's a lot of reasons for it. A lot of the fixed costs of operating any kind of medical practice have really soared. There's a lot more compliance costs. There's a lot more laws that you have to honor and keep track of, right? There's all kinds of reasons, that people tell themselves why you shouldn't do it. And on top of that, too, there's PSLF, and there's just the fear of giving up, a lot of the best loan forgiveness options anywhere, and you're maybe afraid of doing that. Well, I'm going to show you in this video why you don't have to be living into that fear. I'm going to show you why you can do so much better than you thought, and I'm going to show you some really shocking math at the end of this video about why PSLF is usually overrated when we're trying to make the decision about whether or not to be a practice owner, and why that really should not be the thing that's making the decision for you. So I'm going to show a couple key points here about why I think buying into a medical practice is a good idea. And then I'm going to show you some math behind some of these statements to prove it. So first off, owners get more revenue, employees get less. This might feel like an obvious statement, but whether you're paid on an RVU basis, whether or not you get some sort of bonus structure, or even if you just have an academic hospital setting, you've got just a salary bonus, you are getting a back-end calculation of the revenues you're bringing in down as a salary. You are earning a percent range a lot of the times of whatever revenues that you're producing as your income. Now, a lot of places, some places, this percentage of the revenues you're collecting, it's a lot lower than others. Some it's higher, but that's generally how they're calculating things. When you're an owner, you are earning a lot higher percentage of the revenues that you collect because, you are the one who is, bringing in the business. By you existing, you are responsible for whether you're through your reputation or the marketing you do in the community, you're bringing the patients in the door, and you're going to get a higher percent of the overall revenues for that, right? Now, if you have a place where the need is really high, for whatever specialty that you practice, well, that's going to be a lot easier to get people in the door because people are desperately looking for the services you provide. In an area where things are really saturated, right? Where there's lots of providers, well, the need that people have for your services might be less because there's a lot of other people who could supply the same services, and your pricing power is a little bit more limited. You might have to spend more on marketing. So that's one thing to think about is if you're doing a practice, where you've set it up is important. What part of the country you set it up in is important because even though you're getting more revenues as an owner, you do have to pay for things like overhead as an owner. And if you have a very high cost of living area, you're going to have to pay more for labor, more for rent, more for all those fixed expenses that will result in you having lower profit. But the converse is true as well. If you're in a more out of the way area, people have fewer options for jobs in your community. Well, people are going to be willing to work for less. You'll make more profit because your expenses are a lot lower, right? So another thing that I see in medicine a whole lot, and my wife is a physician. Burnout really affects a lot of her colleagues, a lot of people that she's friends with. I see it all the time consulting on student loans for folks where physicians have a lot of burnout and they struggle with burnout. A lot of the reason I think for this is burnout usually happens, I think, when you have a combination of somebody who's underpaid and overworked. I think that's generally speaking the formula for why a lot of this stuff happens. There is some, probably, emotional aspect to things for sure. But, in general, when you have to see a ton of patients, you don't have enough time for any of them, and you're asked to bring work home with you and chart for a lot of electronic medical records, or you're asked to constantly respond to inboxes, coming in from Epic all the time. It's enormously stressful and it's really frustrating. And, by being an owner, sometimes the best part of it is you just get to make the decisions. Maybe you're the one who's hiring a scribe. Maybe you're the one who doesn't have to worry about, just all these bureaucratic policies and procedures. Maybe you get to have some say in, when you respond to patients, requests and messages, right? The point is that, by doing a private practice, what is happening is you're getting probably more money per hour of your time, and you have additional resources that you can use to invest in ways that you see fit, which can help you stay in the profession. So a lot of times people might say, oh, well, private practice, you're serving fewer patients, or you're serving patients with more means. Well, you know what? Every person who makes that decision about joining private practice, that might be, doing that versus reducing hours at the academic institution or even burning out of medicine completely. And then what happens is when you have more of a supply of people going to private practice, that forces the institutions that employ the folks at the academic hospitals to raise their incomes because they have fewer people that are willing to work there for the the salaries that they're paying. So really, it actually does help physicians overall. And then I would say it probably helps patients too, because more patients get more care by physicians who are less burdened and stressed out all the time. And if you think about the financial aspects of practice ownership, the success rate of practice owners is shocking. So whether you're just an equity owner where you don't actually have a buy-in, but you're just, have sweat equity that you have to do, or you're actually buying in with a practice loan, the success rate is pretty shocking. And the reason being is, if you think about medical care, I mean, there's a reason why the percent of our GDP continues to go up on medical care. It's not just because our system is really inefficient in America. It's also because people, if you asked how much would you pay to live forever, people would spend every last dime, right? So people will spend money on medical care, especially if the problem is particularly bad and complex. And that means that the success rate of practice owners for physicians is very, very high. It is very unlikely that you will fail. The number one reasons that physicians fail in practice ownership just is probably either, frankly, burnout or developing some sort of addiction. In those things you just have to be careful about and just take care of yourself, take care of your mental health, so that you protect yourself from those kind of things being a risk for you. If you are able to do your own practice or buy into a practice or be a partner in a practice, you will very likely grow wealth a lot faster. Just because you're capturing more of your revenues that you're collecting, those are able to be reinvested. A lot of times you can set up special retirement plans that shield a much higher amount of your income from taxes than if you were an employee somewhere. So generally speaking, you will grow wealth a lot faster as a physician practice owner, and you'll get a lot more options in life. And let me also share that PSLF, a lot of reasons for people that don't want to do private practice or buy into their own private practice. A lot of the reason for folks that have student loan debt from med school is because they don't want to give up PSLF. So now I'm going to show you why at least that consideration is probably very wrong. So let me show you that next. So if we put in some information here, let's just say somebody's got $300,000 in loans from med school, and then we'll just say they come out of residency with maybe 5 years left. Let's say 6 years left. So we'll say they come out of residency, they were making $60,000 as a resident, and the first full year out of training, they'll make half the year income as resident, half the year out as an attending physician. So let's just say they make, let's say, $300,000 a year as a physician, and so half the year income there is $150,000, and then half the year income as resident is $30,000. So we'll say $180,000 in that little hybrid year. Then every year thereafter, let's say they make $300,000. So if we look at 10 years, well, they'll have, if we say 4 years of residency credit, we'll just pretend that they've already got 4 years of credit towards PSLF. So if you have, another 6 years or so to go on PSLF, it's still going to be way cheaper to do PSLF over a 6-year period of time. Those payments would sum up to about $127,000. So $127,000 over 6 years. If we compare, some sort of 6-year period of paying loans back, if you take a look at the difference in those numbers, right? If you just take the total cost of paying your loans back minus the cost of PSLF, in this case, it's about $220,000. Divide that over a 6-year time frame, it's about $36,000. And then, let's convert this to a pre-tax salary. So to do that, you would just subtract 1 minus their federal income tax rate minus like state income tax rate. And then if we get a pre-tax equivalent salary, $58,000, we'll just round that to about $60,000. So the thought process is, in this case, is if you could earn $60,000 a year more as a private practice owner, then financially speaking, you'd be a break even between sticking around at an academic institution and getting PSLF. So you only have to make $60,000 a year more. From my experience, when people buy into a practice, you're getting all kinds of write-offs. If you buy the building, you're getting depreciation on the building. You are getting, a lot higher income usually than an academic medical center, unless that academic center is really kind of like a community hospital and it's almost private practice, even though it's technically not. So, the reality is the vast majority of physicians that want to do private practice will be able to beat PSLF, in spades, even if you have $400,000 in medical school debt. Maybe the only consideration where you wouldn't would maybe be, certain kind of like primary care subspecialties, maybe pediatrics. And there's some situations where maybe the PSLF value would be too prohibitive to give up. But in most all situations for physicians out there, most people will be significantly better off, even if you have a lot of med school loans, if you pursue practice ownership. So if you're a physician and you are debating this, if you're worried, or maybe you are a physician who has had success in private practice, we'd love to hear in the comments what your opinions are. So if you post those, that'd be great to see. And if you need other encouragement like this to fulfill your dreams, to go after your dreams, not be afraid of pursuing something like practice ownership or anything financially speaking, follow Student Loan Planner. Would love to make more content to show you like this that will encourage you for your future. So let's just hear what you think about practice ownership. And remember that it is something that you will not regret. It is something that you will almost surely make a lot more money doing. And it will keep you in the medical workforce, I think, for a lot longer and help you avoid burnout. So there's a lot of positives to doing it. And would love to hear what you think in the comments. Thanks, folks.